Okay. We finished our selfies and our ussies. We're going to sing Hine Matov Umanaim, how good it is for us to be together. So parents, this really is a great opportunity. Every year we get a praying with parents, and it's so sweet. And before you know it, it won't be as easy. I'm saying this as an older person with older kids. It won't be as easy to get your kid to snuggle up next to you at services. Then they'll come back. Then they'll come back. But there will be a period of time. Maestro, am I right or am I right? There will be a dark period of time where they won't even acknowledge that you're their parent. It just happens. But we're not there yet. For now, we're going to enjoy this moment, and we're just going to cuddle up next to each other. We'll also give you a sense of what we do every Friday when you drop your kids off here. So I want to thank you in advance for keeping your masks on. I'm going to take my mask off when I'm leading, and I'll put it back on if I'm not leading. But I'll thank you in advance for keeping your mask on. Make sure that it covers your nose. Thank you. Your kids know the rules. And please put those phones away, because not just selfies. We don't want selfies now. We don't want the phones on at all to distract us. So no texties or emailies or Snapchatties. Some of you kids with your MySpace accounts, put it away. Okay. Hine matov umanaim shevet achim gam yachad. It is so good to be together, sisters and brothers, classmates, a community, friends together. Hine matov umanaim shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. It happens to be a really beautiful day out there, but even if it was raining, even if it was sleeting and hailing, we would still say Ma Yafeh Hayom, because Shabbat is here, the most beautiful day of the week, a day for family, a day for a wonderful meal where we can slow down, a day where we get to welcome our morning here in our sanctuary together. Ma Yafeh Hayom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. really great to hear your voices. Isn't it nice?
It's wonderful.
Maestro.
Everyone is so energized today. I can feel the energy just rising up out of everyone.
You know, one way we like to get ready for Shabbat, we have some choreography in many of the prayers. Some of the choreography is designed, you'll see a little bit later, to teach the meaning of the prayer. So the hand motions actually help us understand the meaning of the prayer. This one is, I think, just kind of fun. The great Bob Fosse choreographed this. In his early days, you've heard jazz hands. These are the bim bam hands, which was sort of a kind of a precursor to jazz hands. So you can get them ready, and we'll do a little bim bam. Here we go. In. Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam,
Shiri biri biri.
bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 Shabbat. Now we get real quiet. Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam,
Shiri biri biri.
bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim
Bim bim bim bim.
bam.
Right? Am I right? That's called an ending.
That is an ending. It's the button on the
the button,
song.
right.
So those songs help us get warmed up for Shabbat, and then we start our service with Baruch Hu. And I was just talking about this with Mrs. Weiser. Kids, the earth, is round. It's a globe. And so when we think of how we would get from here to Jerusalem the fastest way, before we really understood the way the globe worked, we would just head east. You'd go east. But how many of you have ever flown to Israel? Have you ever been on an airplane? You fly to Israel. And these fancy new planes, Maestro, I don't know if you've seen this, Maestro, they have a video monitor right there in your seat, and it tells you the path that you're taking. And if you notice, when you take off from LAX, you don't go east. What direction do you go? The fastest direction to get to Israel. You actually go northeast. Yeah, and you go almost over the North Pole, and that's called the Great Arc. And that's the fastest way from here to there. So I have an app on my iPhone. You kids have, your parents have smartphones these days? Are you still doing the flippies? Yeah, no, it's all the rage. I think it's catching on. I got one of those smartphones, and it's got an app, and it's called Jew Compass. I'm not making this up, Jew Compass. And it shows you wherever you're standing, it shows you the Great Arc to Jerusalem. Well, here's what I discovered. I always thought that our ark was facing the wrong direction because it's kind of northerly. And I always thought, well, how come the ark's not on the east side? And then I realized it was because of the view. But then I realized if you take out the Jew Compass, at the actual direction, the fastest way to Jerusalem is this way. So after that tedious and boring introduction, I'm going to ask you to stand up. Stand up. We're going to face that way towards Jerusalem for the Baruch Hu. Now, the first line of the Baruch Hu, I sing all by myself, and then the second line, we all sing together. But we start with the Yai Lai Lai. Yai Lai Lai, Yai Lai Lai Lai, Yai Lai Lai Lai, Lai Lai Lai. Now, I sing the first line. Baruch Hu et Adonai. And
we repeat.
Now we all sing together.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai
HaMevorach le'olam
sing ya la la again. Ya la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Yotzei or vorech koshech, oseh shalom shalom uvorech hakol. Yotzei or uvorech koshech, oseh shalom shalom uvorech hakol. Uvoret hakol. Now we get very quiet. Many of us like to close our eyes so we can concentrate more. Some people make a shin out of their 3 fingers and they place it over their eyes to remind us of the Hebrew letter shin, the first letter in the word Shema, which means listen. And we're listening to the truth that there is a oneness to creation, a oneness to the universe. We are all part of God's creation. We are all connected. We are all one. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Shem kevod malchuto leolam va'ed. Can all be seated. So parents, you'll notice we don't have prayer books in kindergarten and first grade. We start to introduce the Siddur in second grade, and that's very planned. That's very planful. That's something that we work on with our first grade teachers and our Jewish studies and Hebrew instructors, so that we're introducing the Hebrew letters and reading of Hebrew at the right time developmentally. And we're sequencing that with the way that we're teaching reading of English. So we learn the songs and the prayers in kindergarten and first grade just by repeating them week after week after week. The beautiful thing about that is then those melodies are just embedded in the child's being. And later they'll learn to read and they'll learn more. But we also teach content using choreography and other kinds of things, and also the prayer introduction. So when I talk about the oneness, hopefully over time, our students really associate Shema Yisrael, that it is a prayer of oneness, which it is. This prayer, Mi Chamocha, is a prayer that celebrates our freedom, and I like to tell our first graders that from the Jewish perspective, freedom doesn't mean that you can do anything you want. Freedom means that you get to embrace a life of mitzvot, of responsibility. And we believe that we're truly free as Jews when we take on more and more obligations for making the world a better place. That's what freedom is. And so to become a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah is to embrace more and more of those obligations. First graders are already taking on more responsibility than when they were in kindergarten. And before you know it, we'll be having them be our Klei Kodesh, and they'll be leading services for us little by little, week by week. So Mi Chamocha is our prayer of freedom. Ya Elai, 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 Ya Elai, 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 Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, lo רק תהילתו ספלת, לא רק תהילתו ספלת. יא אליי, 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 יא אליי, 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 יא אליי, 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 יא aligh. One of the things we're working on with our first graders is clapping on the 2 and the 4. And this song in particular is hard. It's hard for them because you just kind of go to the 1 and the 3. But we're getting there. Week by week, we're getting better and better at that. We also have the opportunity, especially when Maestro joins us, we have the opportunity to also think about the way our prayers are elevated by the music and how we can connect those curricula, our music instruction curriculum and our prayer curriculum. They come together in lots of ways. Now we're going to rise and we're going to face once again towards Jerusalem. And we're going to sing the first part of the Amidah, then we'll have some silent prayer. God, open our lips so that we can say words of prayer to you. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agit hilatecha. Eternal God, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Let's take 30 seconds. Think about something that you're thankful for, and think about something that you want to ask God for our world. 30 seconds of silent prayer. You can have a seat, and later, maybe as you're getting ready for Shabbat as a family, however you're celebrating Shabbat tonight, maybe you could share, first graders, if you can try to hold on to it and remember it, maybe you could share one of those things you were grateful for with your family, and maybe you could share one of those things you were praying for our world. You could write it down so you don't forget. Sim Shalom. We conclude our silent prayer with a prayer for peace, for shalom, for wholeness, for all of the sense of well-being that we pray for in our world. Our mindfulness curriculum here at Wise School really connects to this prayer in a deep way, because we're helping our kids to be more aware and to think about their whole experience as human beings. And that can give us that sense of shalom. Sim shalom. Tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Sim shalom, tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu, על כל ישראל עמך עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. there's a prayer in the Amidah for healing, and so after the Amidah, we often offer a Misha Berach LeRefuah, a prayer for healing. And I always ask if there's anyone in the first grade who's out sick this particular week, and we can then pray for that student. Or maybe there's a family member, a parent or a grandparent who's sick, and we're thinking of them. Did you want to say the name of someone that you're thinking of? Evan? Is Evan out sick today? Okay, we're hoping that Evan will feel better soon and come back. And we know that even outside of our family and even outside of our friends, there are people all over the world in need of healing. And you know what? We need healing too. Even if we're feeling healthy, sometimes there might be some pain that we're carrying, emotional pain. And boy, over the last couple of years, what we've all been through, there's a lot of that. So we want to think about the ways that we can bring healing to the whole wide world, to everybody, with these words of Misha Berach. Sheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema. The renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Oh, get ready.
We also often have an opportunity for a story at this time, and parents just want to remind you, mask over the nose. If it's not covering the nose, it's not doing its job. Thank you so much. This story is inspired by this week's Torah portion, which is often the case, but not always. Sometimes I talk about one of the holidays or something else that's happening. But this week's Torah portion, it's pretty irresistible when it comes to storytelling. It's the story of Noah's Ark. And parents, I want you to notice very carefully the way I use language about this story. And the reason I do it so specifically is so later I don't have to unteach something. When one of your first graders is my student for their Devar Torah, and they say, did God really make an ark and flood the world? And why did God decide to kill all those animals? I don't have to unsay something that I said earlier. So listen carefully how I tell the story. Kids, our Torah tells a story in this week's Torah portion about the way people in the world were not being nice to each other. And according to the Torah and according to the rabbis' commentaries that came later, this made God very upset. And God said, I think I'm going to start over. I'm going to try to create the world all over again, and maybe this time people will be nice to each other. And so God said to Noah in this week's Torah portion, build a big boat so big that we can put all the animals on the boat, and then when the flood comes, those animals will be saved. Well, this story is told by Isaac Bashevis Singer, one of the great storytellers of the 19th and 20th century. And he takes the story of Noah's Ark and he tells a little bit of a midrash. He imagines that all the animals wanted to get into the ark. But God said, I'm not going to take all the animals, I'm just going to take some of them. And so the animals came and they wanted to make a case to Noah. They wanted to make an argument to Noah how they should be on the ark. And one of the first animals that came up was the lion. And the lion roared and said, I'm king of the jungle. I'm the most handsome of all the animals. I'm one of the strongest of all of the animals. You have to put me on the ark. And then the elephant came up. And the elephant said, it's true that the lion is quite good looking, but I'm bigger. And I've got the longest nose, the longest trunk, and I can do all sorts of fancy things with my trunk. And I've also got big ears. And I've got these tusks, and I'm really smart. You should put me on the ark. Well, one after another, the animals came up, and they told Noah how great they were. And the frog came up. You know what the frog said? I can ribbit. No one else can do that. Would you like to let me be on the ark? And then a dog came up, and the dog said, I am humanity's best friend. You have to put me on the ark. The giraffe came and said, have you ever seen a neck so beautiful? Look at this. This is gorgeous. You should put me on the ark. And one after another, the skunk came up and said, have you ever smelled anything quite so beautiful? Pepe Le Pew. So each animal came up, and one by one, they came onto the ark, and each one had another story about how great they were. Noah noticed that there was a little bird off to the side, a dove. A beautiful little bird just sitting on the side, and the dove didn't say anything at all, while all the other animals were coming up and telling Noah how great they were. The dove just sat there. And Noah turned to the dove and said, why aren't you telling me how great you are? And the dove said, you know what, Noah? I don't think I'm any better or any worse than all the other animals. I'm happy with who I am, but I don't have to tell you all the great things about me, and I don't have to say that I'm better than any of the other animals. I'm just another one of God's creatures, just as deserving as everyone else. And Noah was so impressed and so moved by the dove's modesty. That means that the dove didn't have to walk around all the time bragging about himself. That Noah said, I'm going to bring all those other animals on the ark, but I'm going to bring you on, Mr. Dove, for a special purpose. In the story of Noah's ark, when we're trying to find out when the rain will finally subside and when we'll finally be able to go onto dry land, the dove is the one that's sent out to see if there is any vegetation, if there are trees or bushes that the dove can see, and the dove's the one that comes back with an olive branch in her beak. And to this day, parents, you know this, but now kids, you might know this too. That's why the olive branch is a symbol of peace, because of the story of Noah's ark. So what's the lesson? What's the takeaway? We don't have to be better than others or see ourselves as worse than others. We have to understand that we're all part of a community. We're all part of a people, a school community here, but even more broadly, a human family where we don't have to be on top of others or underneath others. We can celebrate the beauty in each other. We can celebrate the differences. Some of us have long, beautiful, graceful necks, and some of us not so much. Some of us have big noses and maybe smaller noses. Some of us have certain skills and maybe not other skills, but we're all part of God's creation, and we all have kavod, and we have to treat each other with that every day, just like today. Glad we're having parents praying with parents when it's Parashat Noach and not like Vayikra, which is all about animal sacrifices, and it's not quite as inspiring a story. But that's part of the challenge. That's the week I'm going to ask our intern, Malcolm, to tell the story, so that'll be good. Okay. Well, one of the things that we get to do really only when we have praying with parents is to have a special parent's blessing. So I know some of you might have brought your talit with you, and some of you didn't, and that's okay. You can make a talit out of your arms. And if for whatever reason you don't have a talit of your own, we can help you with that too. We have some here at the temple that you could purchase. You can get them at Judaic stores here in LA. You can buy them online. If you buy them online, though, parents, seriously, be very careful, because there are these Messianic Jewish Judaica stores online, and you will get a talit that says things that you don't want it to say. We've had that happen for a couple bar and bat mitzvahs. But ask your rabbis or cantors, we can help you. So if you have your talit with you, you can wrap your first grader in the talit with you. And like I said, if you don't have your talit with you today, that's okay. Just use your arm as a talit. And we're very, very happy to have you with us today. After this blessing, Mrs. Weiser is going to say a few words, and then we'll have our closing song. But Maestro and I, we're just lucky to be with you on this special, special day, along with your amazing first grade teachers and our incredible Shinshiniyot, our wonderful, wonderful shlichot that are here all the way from Israel. So let's say this blessing together. It goes back more than 3,500 years. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. May God always be gracious to you and you to others. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. V'yasem lecha shalom. And may God grant you the most precious gift of all, the gift of peace, the gift of wholeness, the gift of shalom. V'yasem lecha shalom.
Thanks. Hey, first graders. Hi, first grade families. I am so happy we are here together. You guys hear me say in all of my meetings the 3 things that I try to keep in my head every day. We want to be as safe as possible, look as normal as possible, and have as few disruptions as possible. And today, we get to look as normal as possible. We get to be in the sanctuary and wrap our arms around our children, and it's so good to be back and be together. And I want to tell you guys something I told the 5th graders yesterday at Praying with Parents when they were getting ready for their bar mitzvah. When Rabbi Yoshi tells us we're getting ready to do the Amidah, and we get ready to say that prayer, I told the 5th graders that I read something about the Amidah. And this is what I learned, Rabbi Yoshi. When we do it, we get to ask 3 things. We get to say 3 things. Wow, please, and thanks. And so yesterday I took a hike with Miss Kleinman, and when we were on the trail very late and it was very cloudy, I stopped and I said, wow. Like, wow, look where we live. We live in such a great place. And look at when we're here together today and we're with all of our community. There's so many times every single day I get to stop and say, wow. And there's so many times during the day I actually stop and say, please. And sometimes I'm saying please for my family. Or sometimes I'm saying please for a friend. And sometimes I'm saying, please, just for me or our school. And I'm thinking, God, please help this. I stop every day and I say, please. And the last thing we get to do is we get to say thanks. Thanks for everything we have. We are so lucky. Thanks to our amazing clergy that share their lives in our beautiful Shinshiniot and our wonderful maestro. Thanks to the most amazing first grade team you could ever have, ever. Our administration, to Mr. Heffron, to Ms. Kleinman. Ms. Clement had a situation this morning, but thanks to all the people that make this happen, and especially thanks to all of you. The next 9 months, we're gonna do amazing things with your first graders. They're going to have all sorts of programs, and they're going to learn about American symbols, and we're going to teach. There's going to be so many projects and things, and we just get to say thanks. So I want to wish everybody a great Shabbat, a wonderful, wonderful time with your family. Kids, you're going to give your parents a hug, and your teachers are going to stand up, and you're going to walk out, and parents are going to stay for a minute. We've got a coffee and a breakfast. So kids, if you can head out to the back door with your teachers, we love you. Shabbat Shalom.
Also want to say thank you to Mrs. Weiser. Everyone else got thanked.
Woo!
Hine Matov.
Hine Matov.
Umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov. Umanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
How good it is.
how good it is,
How sweet it is
how sweet it is.
to be together on this day. How good it is.
How good it is,
How sweet it is.
how sweet it is to be together on this day. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Make it a great Shabbat.